G'day punters, welcome back to the Punters Academy, episode 7. And today we've got a lot of good questions, lots of great content to go through, and a review of some of the group racing action both in Sydney and Melbourne from last weekend. So we'll kick off with some questions. The first one's from David. David asks, are there any modern books that you'd recommend reading to help get an edge when betting? David, I've put together a bit of a list here. Look, there's lots of others from overseas and so forth, depending on what type of content you're looking for. But I'd start with, say, books like Gallopers and Gamblers from Pat Craven, Winning More and Winning Way, Don Scott. They're pretty obvious, those ones. Hats in the Ring, obviously by Hats. Aitken, Punting to Win, Rod Buttery, Horse Racing Theory and Practice by Paul Seeger, and The Complete Horse Player by David Edelman, who also has a PhD, and which I suppose makes him a bit smarter. But anyway, there's lots of others that I mentioned from overseas. If there's a specific subject that you want more content on, maybe flick an email and I'll see if I can dig something out for you. But I just sort of went to the shelf yesterday and had a bit of a look and dug out some.
If I went to my shelf, there'd be
some of the old gems.
Batman, Superman. Yeah, there's not many books on my shelf that are actually reading content. They're more pictures, so I'll leave that question to you.
Pictures, man. Right.
I do have a few books there, but I've no idea what the name of them are. And I have read them, like Don Scott's books. I've gone through most of. Probably a couple of those, I think. But yeah, they're good. But no time for books these days. Yeah,
no time.
Good. Nah.
He's too busy managing group jockeys.
Yeah, group jockeys, that's right, and listening to them gloating. Yeah,
and a great effort by Josh on Saturday riding the treble there. So
3 for 3, that's right. If you could have got more rides, I got one. I never got any positivity back apart from Josh, except for one. Someone attacked. They're like, if you had got him 9 rides, you probably would have ridden 9 winners or something. I was like, thanks, mate. But no, he did a good job from
quality
from what he had.
Job.
That's it. I think half the time this time of year, it's nearly the battle is just keeping your mind focused. They sort of half go off the boil when they're riding, long shots in these races and get the shit. So it's, the way it worked out for Josh was great.
Going well, great effort. Okay, next one's from Jimbo. Jimbo's got a couple of, I suppose this question's a two-part. Just caught up with a couple of episodes, but have quickly deduced that neither of you are betting to prices in the classic sense, i.e. backing every overlay. Any reason for this? And, basically, mate, most syndicates struggle to win under that model. And the only reason they're surviving is because of the rebate that they're getting off the tote and so forth. I think you need to have an opinion. I do believe that the effectiveness of just simply backing overlays, like the old, I suppose what we all grew up on, via the Don Scott type teachings and so forth, is that, that type of value is gone from the market now, and the market's much more efficient, much more objective in terms of assessing chances, and the big firm is still, during the course of official betting, means that there's obviously still value there, but it's not the same as it once was.
No, it's an interesting point, because I can kind of see where he's coming from, and what you've said is pretty true, but I've always wanted to run a bit of an automated model off your finalised pricing and maybe input something 5 or 10 minutes out and see how it works, because it's pretty hard to keep up with, physically, but I don't know how it'd play out, because if anything before that, the fluctuations are just so big. It's just
that's right.
It's really hard to keep track of. It's such a different landscape. Like I mucked around with some bets last night, at like 10 o'clock at night, taking 5 to 2 things that are all 2s on now, and you could have I could have tripled my money this morning cashing out, and those horses will probably get back out to the prices that I took. So they've gone 330 into 160. They'll probably get out towards $3. The market just sort of goes like this.
A lot of seesawing action going on, especially with these early corporate prices, which are all tied to each other. So to make a horse firm, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, it's just so hard to work out and how much exactly. If you could probably play an overlay system in a really small manner, or so, I don't. It's such a hard thing, and everyone's just had to adapt. And I think that's a bit of a lost art along the way, because it's so difficult to do.
I think you've got to be flexible, Jimbo. You've got to take it in line that you can't just mark a horse a particular price, and it's a bit absurd to think that you're always going to be right. You need to be flexible, take sometimes direction from the market, especially on certain types of horses, and I suppose the most notable are the ones that are resuming from spells. The market provides a really good lead there, and long term, if you go against the grain and you're backing blowers,
that's a good point. That's right. All of a sudden, you mark something $5 and you're backing because it's 20s out from 5s or something like that. Exactly, and you're going to waste a lot of money.
I think so.
Just chasing a price that's probably not right.
Second part of Jimbo's question, it's my preferred method of playing, but for mine just doesn't work like it used to. Well, we sort of covered that. My theory is that the market's become much better informed and consequently it's become obsolete.
He answered his own question.
You sort of,
I wish I'd have read ahead, yeah.
Sort of have, the market is better informed, it's more sophisticated, but there's still weaknesses in the market. You just need the right tools to be able to identify those weaknesses. And once you've got, I suppose, a short list of the main ones, pick out ones that you feel like you can turn an edge from, put them together in a bit of a model or a bit of a strategy, and look for those types of horses. So look for horses that fit the profile of the display characteristics that the market typically doesn't price correctly.
Correct, and if you know, even say you're targeting a specific area, these big syndicates are having such a big influence over the market late in betting now that you can be more confident that you're right than them. You know, like we're not talking about first up horses and things like that, but you just by specialising in an area, you can capitalise on huge fluctuations late in betting. And that's where your overlay system can come in, where you've got horses that you can be really confident, or as confident as you can be, that your price is as right as you can make it without any inside influence. Then you can back your overlays.
The market dynamics, they shift over time too, so you've got to be aware of and have the capability to research that. And I'm always conducting research, probably on a biannual basis, that sort of look for new things that the market may be getting wrong, or look for things that they're starting to overcorrect.
A shift, yeah.
There's always a shift. Sometimes it usually takes longer than 6 months to materialise, but it's a good idea to go back and actually have a look at those things. And I've got just a simple system in Axis that I run that allows me to analyse that data and sort of highlight those areas where there's
change. Yeah, okay.
Or where there has been a change.
Yes.
And so, Jimbo, look, they're good questions, and look, I hope we've done it justice and got through that. Next one from Gary. Thanks for the ongoing education pieces. This is to John. I've got a question that I thought yourself or Paul might be able to assist with. I've been using BetAngel for some time, predominantly for the purpose of identifying drifters, and typically avoid backing. I've started working on a top pluck simulator for placing back bets on meetings where the top pluck is not available with the corpse, i.e. non-metro. Have you had any experience in this area? The answer is no. What about you, John?
So, hang on. I've started working on a top fluck simulator for placing back bets on meetings where top fluck is not available. So he's trying to predict the top fluck?
I think so.
So he's trying to snipe the top of the market using Betfair as his guide of when the horse is going to go off?
Yeah. There appears to be general trends over the last 10 minutes versus different odds ranges, yet predicting the peaks can still be a bit challenging. Any thoughts or suggestions? Well, if you're playing Betfair, the exchange doesn't even get serious until 2 minutes out. A minute and a half.
Fully serious. So if you're following, it can definitely, the market's reacting heavily to Betfair in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But as you said, it can correct just as quickly as it can dive in that last 2 minutes. So.
But the volume, the big volume,
is obviously in the last few minutes.
Yes.
Say 2 minutes to advertised jump time. So when it's the next race in the roll along, certainly it is when it is. But it's an interesting idea. I don't see backing horses that he's interested in and trying to get the top price, or just backing. Yeah,
and also, well, he's saying predominantly for the purpose of identifying drifters. Ones that I can avoid backing.
Okay.
So if I've got a horse that's 20%.
Yes.
And it goes from $5 to $8 on the fair.
Yes.
And maybe one or two of the key corporates are pushing the price, like Crown, for instance.
Yes.
Top dressing everyone. Then suddenly there's 12.
You're going to know that's going out, so you're looking for the one that's about to.
There's 12.5% gone. In terms of the market, something's got to firm.
Yeah.
Which one's likely to firm? When should we be taking action in terms of that? I mean, you might be able to predict the market, but obviously you can't get on all the time because you need the volume there. So you might be thinking to yourself that
we're just trying to snip the top of the market about the fancy runners. Kind of seems to be what he's trying to do. It's an interesting.
You're probably better off doing it. If you're, I don't know where you live, Gary, but if you're in
it's interesting.
Sydney,
he talks about talking. So he's obviously using top fluck in other areas. I don't. Yeah, it's interesting.
Little bit.
It's a bit of a. You definitely come back if we've missed the mark because. It's a bit of an open-ended question. That's interpreted. It's open to interpretation. But
if you're in Sydney and you're in the ring, they'll often bet down to losing figures or down to 100%.
Oh, easily.
100% on track, and they will bet you. I mean, you can get on the win. You
whatever you want.
2,000 to 5,000 per bookmaker. Don't waste your time if you live in Brisbane. They've got imposters there who are bookmakers who are betting you.
What are the actual limits in
$500.
Brisbane? $500.
How's
that possible?
And I've even heard of people being chopped to win 500.
Yeah, I think I got chopped to win 500 on a 20-1 chance or something insane. The guy's like, I said 100, and he's like, you can have 10 or whatever it was. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah, they're a joke. The Uncle's bookmakers
Group 2 or something.
And the racing club and the stewards won't do anything about it because don't know what the go is there. But
well, they're just shrinking themselves. Really, they're just killing themselves off. So that's okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Gary, hope we've been able to help you with that one. So if we have missed anything there, please come back to us. Okay, buckle in, John. We've got one from Matt, which will take us through to the end of part one. This is sort of like a multiple question and an interesting one too. Thanks for answering my last question, Paul. I've got another one if you have time. Well, we've got the time.
We've got the time.
So we'll see how we go. Most of the successful punters I've read and listened to do focus on measuring expectation versus outcome. Whilst there's no last race and I want to focus on the long term, I also like to focus on shorter term outcomes, or more so understand and manage the true expectations. Right or wrong, human nature will have most punters considering results on a particular day, so I'd like to pick both yours and John's brains about your actual results. In advance, I understand if you don't want to or if you don't want to share this information, so happy with anything that you're prepared to offer. And we'll do our best.
Yeah.
I want to focus on results versus expectations of profit on turnover on any particular set of data. For the purposes what I want to know, let's call an event Saturday, Wednesday, public holiday, etc. is a series of bets placed on the day. Let's break it down into brackets. Win 50% or greater on turnover, win 10 to 49%, win or lose 9 to -9, loss of 10 to 50 or a loss of 50% or greater. So we're talking about on turnover on a particular day. If you reviewed your results, where would they be distributed over the long term? Okay, well, look, I don't break it down into percentages of what you've suggested. I do review the results on a regular basis, probably every couple of months. I'll go back and analyse my results, and it's usually, I suppose, driven by a losing period where you haven't maybe handled things as well as you could. The photos have gone against you. The bad luck sort of come more and more your way. You're on a roll of place getters. All those sorts of things that dent the confidence, that naturally affect your confidence level. And so I'll often go back and I'll look at my bets in bet block sizes. So I'll say, look, I'll look at my last 50 or 100 or 200 or whatever it might be, just to sort of see more of to serve as a reminder on where I've been, where it's got to before, how bad it has been before during concentrated periods or of short time spans or low numbers of bets, and just how it's turned around. More as a reassurance, I suppose, tool. So that's how I do it. In terms of measuring the outcomes, we'll get onto that in a sec. John, what do you do as far as
I just bet. I just bet and bet and bet and bet. And I obviously keep track of what I do, but I don't. I try not to look at anything. I just keep betting, and if I run out of money, I've got an issue. But I know how much money. I don't want to let any result affect my confidence as much as possible. I mean, like we had a day last Sunday or something where there was 4 good bets, all should have probably won. All tragic results beaten, all halved in price, as bad as it could be mentally for you, sort of to get through. And I had a guy send me an email, he's like, oh, terrible run we're having or something. I'm like, if I nicked myself after 4 losing bets every time, I would have been,
even 400.
Well, in a row, I mean. Probably 400. Four losing races in a row.
Yeah. Even after
I would have been gone long ago. I would have been off the gap long ago. That's right. So it's just, I know what you're saying. I know it is human nature, and you still know how you're going on the day. It's in the back of your mind all the time how you're going on the day. It probably does affect a little bit the way you process information, and you might be a little bit more aggressive if you're having a better day, or cautious, or however you're sort of wired. It's naturally going to get in there, except for people who are just concentrated on mathematical equations, plug it in this much on that, which I'm not totally. But you've really just got to forget that every race is totally different. I've been through the ups and downs as everyone's like, Paul, good idea, go back and see, listen, I've had this bad a run before and I've got through it, and at the end of the day, it really doesn't, your pie chart or whatever, the way you want to look at it, at the end of your graph, at the end of it's not really affected long term. It's just variance, and sometimes it does tend to feel like the world's ending. You do want to look at the way you're processing your information. Is there anything you've changed? And as long as everything stays consistent, there's no reason to not treat every single race the same way.
Pretty much, I think so. And if you statistically, if you use 2 lines of standard deviation, you'll account for 95% of all outcomes in races. So there's still a 5% chance that the results will fall outside that. But if you model that, and you can do that in Excel, if you're not sure how, I can help you out. But or if you've got a particular
definitely ask Paul that
set of numbers, I can run them through a bit of a simulator that I've got there. So. To show you what that looks like. But I think the most challenging thing for punters is that managing their bank, managing their drawdown in their capital, which is inevitable. The reality is that about 90% of the time, and it could be anywhere between 80 and 95% of the time, but around about 90% of the time, your betting bank will be in drawdown and will be below a previous bank high at some stage. So about 90% of the year, you're going to spend with that losing feeling. Now that doesn't mean that you're not winning money on the year. I'm talking about your bank reaches a peak.
Yes, then goes backward, and then goes forward, then goes backward, then goes forward. Yes.
So you're going to be in that drawdown phase around about.
You're fighting the losing feeling a lot of the time. That's right.
And you've got to be able to deal with that and make sense of it. And it's the inability for punters to be able to manage that idea. And that reality that causes most of them to never succeed.
Yeah, and it's funny how process driven versus me on field. That's pretty right. But at the end of the day, we're both the same. It's just, and I'm probably more, because I'm a field punter, likely to go off the rails and change my betting and everything and want to change my structure because I can. It's not as structured as what yours probably is, but probably years of fighting that has come to this point for me, and it's just you kind of just get immune to it. Even big wins, losses, things that happen, even protest on Saturday still got me boiling a little bit. But
the last one in Sydney.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. But things like that.
Would you have upheld?
Upheld what? I would have upheld fourth versus the winner. That was about all I would have upheld. I thought the winner was probably more interfered with than the horse that ran second.
Yeah.
But that's just personal opinion. But yeah, those sort of things just really have to be taken out. And day-to-day wins and profit on turnover really don't.
Look, it's nice. It's obviously nice to get a good result, and everyone wants to win, and everyone wants to go away feeling a winner on a regular basis, and making sure that you collect on a regular basis.
I'd be more interested in focusing on if I've had a really good day, and I've only won 10% on turnover, or something like that. I've obviously got to check how I'm betting, you know what I mean? I'm talking about a red letter day where you've basically every race you've bet into, you've had a result, and you're only coming out with 10 or 20% on turnover for your maximum day. That's probably would be more alarming to me and would be having me check what I'm doing than if I'd had a strip out even, obviously you've got everything wrong, but it's if you're not capitalising on your days where you're correct a lot of the way through, that would be more alarming to me than anything.
It's an old saying, and I can't even remember where I heard it the first time, but you've got to be able to win what you lose in a day.
Correct. That's right. Your best day must exceed your worst.
If you lose $1,000 on a day, and that's a big amount for you, you've got to be able to win $1,000 on a good day.
Correct.
Or there's something wrong with your strategy.
Correct.
In terms of the way you're approaching your betting, or your staking, or your pricing, or your assessment of the horse's chances.
It should far exceed, to tell you the truth. It should far exceed your best day. Should far exceed your worst. Otherwise, you're in trouble. And I'm not talking about betting up into races, but it's I just think a lot of people, the people who work on really low margins, are the ones for me that tend to disappear out of the game. If it makes sense. I'm not talking big syndicates, but people like one-man operators that I've sort of seen that say that they can work on 3 to 5% on turnover and don't turn over like syndicates. They're the ones that seem to disappear out of the game.
Well, they can probably survive if turning over more money by virtue of the
lower end of the market.
Yeah, what area
Yes,
you're betting into.
yes.
But 3 to 5% on a 15 or 20% strike rate is going to see you
Eating the paint off the walls.
exactly, and very difficult to manage psychologically in the bad runs.
Absolutely.
The next part of your question, Matt, was given that you seem more process driven than John goes on feel, is there a big difference when you compare results against the measure? Now, I can only speak for my own results. Did a bit of analysis this morning. Long term, I'm achieving about a 10% on turnover. Importantly, though, my average odds, for example, on all back bets, so we're not talking about lay bets here, over the last couple of years is $4.56. Well, it's been $4.56 this calendar year on my overall back bets. The odds on my winning bets, $3.56, and on my losing bets, $5.12. So the overall strike rate for my back bets is around about the 36% mark, so implied probability of around about the 7 to 4 area. So being that I'm in that area of the market mostly, my 10% on turnover is actually more than adequate because I'm turning over sufficient monies to make enough dollars profit to be able to survive it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whereas I haven't done mine for a while, but I remember I did about 8 years worth, and I think average price of a winner was over $7, and my profit on turnover was a little bit higher, but obviously not betting as much, nowhere near as much. I can't, especially now. I wouldn't be surprised if it's come down now, as in price of winner, because you could have just driven into that area and find myself finding a lot more favourites than I feel comfortable with. But it's each to their own. It's a different game now to what it was, so I can't really answer it without going back over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, because it's a lot more relevant than the previous part, that's just basically a different playing field now to what it was.
Totally different landscape, but you've got to find what's comfortable for you. Personally, the longer the average price of your winner, the more difficult it is to become and stay profitable as a punter because of the actual strike rate of success.
Yes.
Your drawdowns are going to be bigger in terms of real dollars or percentage of your bankroll. So whilst it's not impossible, it's certainly a lot more difficult, and that's probably why, for me, I choose to play into that part of the marketplace simply because I think there's more value there. The data tells me there is. My results tell me that there is, and that's where most of the bigger pros play.
And you're able to take more advantage of it if you find the edge there. Like, you can have more on as well. So it's obviously an important part of it.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Finally, is there a correlation between the results and the time of year? Are the results more volatile during the Sydney Autumn Carnival or after a run of wet tracks? Wet track betting for me, definitely more challenging, but I don't avoid any part of the year. I think it's a bit like the stock market. If you're investing in the stock market, it's basically the time that you're in the market, not trying to.
And your strategies adapt.
Yeah,
like your system adapts to this. Every race is, again, it's like it's the same sort of thing over and over again, but every race is different. You're assessing every race on its particular merits, whether it be wet, track, whatever it is. You're obviously going to be a little bit more cautious with certain things under different conditions, but I'm pretty similar. Like, I don't stop betting at any time during the year. I do have more confidence, mental confidence with the better horses, drier tracks.
Yeah.
I probably bet up more, have more bets during those periods, and that would probably be what changes for me, would be turnover. I'd still use the same identifying strategies and like betting into wet tracks for different reasons, but I definitely would have less bets during a wet season. So this winter's been incredible because it's probably we've got track records week to week in the moment in Sydney, so it's insane.
And the stewards continue to
put up a three. Go the threes.
And they are, a lot of them are good threes, but Rosehill Saturday was a fast 2 or a firm 2, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they're just running, you can tell the horses are don't look spent on the line. They're running through the line over, running these fast times, and it has to be the track speed, really. There's nothing else that can explain it. They're not horses that are improving 5 lengths from week to week. So
the only time I will cut back, and John and I have talked about this before, is in intraday, where you stop betting because of a significant
lanes and
change.
weird things that are out that you can't predict. Yes.
A massive weather shift. You've done your form for a good 3, you know, maybe a sort of a dead 4 or a soft 4, whatever they call it now. And, you know, you thunderstorms or something hit and, you know...
A pattern that you cannot possibly predict.
Exactly. And so there's no point trying to persist when you're in that situation. You're better off trying to resist. And
you obviously get more of those during those wet seasons and than you would during a springtime or a summertime. Yeah. So it makes sense that... But, like, you can definitely work out after you've been in the game long enough. The only way to do it is trial and error, what suits you best. There will be people that definitely just prefer to have winter off because they can't get a handle on those sort of races, which is fine. If you identify yourself that you can't handle certain situations, it's much better than trying to bet through them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it all comes back to your style. I just sort of go into each race, and so does John, looking at it on the basis of
and you've got enough.
A puzzle.
Yeah, you've got enough data and everything to handle everything as well. Like you've been doing it long enough to be able to identify different things, and I'm sure that's like how you handle your betting. I've been doing it long enough to try and adapt, basically. So it makes sense for us to sort of keep going, whereas other people who are new to the game probably need to... I would never shut up shop. I would always try and push through, but maybe just, even if you're not betting, still keep preparing for meetings, keep trying to work out why you're not achieving similar results all the way through, because there's no really reason not to.
No.
There's no secret reason not to, so... if you are struggling, just keep pushing on and just maybe cut your betting out.
Okay, Matt, that's the end of your
questions.
Your questions, and they were great questions in part 1, I feel. Got some more good content in part 2, so we'll see you back shortly.